Am I doing it? Am I doing nail ASMR? Is this how you do nail ASMR? I don't know if you guys can hear that. Accidental ASMR for the start of the live stream. Hello everyone. Hello. I didn't get to show off my nails. They're really cool, so I thought I'd show off my nails. Anyways, enough of the ASMR. Hi everyone. Welcome back to another Friday live stream. We are here. It's Friday. Beautiful weather today. I feel like this is like the ideal condition for my office to be in. Like it's cozy. It's a little bit light outside, not totally dark yet. Oh, you guys can actually probably see my nails if I do like this. It's like, they're like black sparkle, but then also like orange and a little purple and a little green. Like I love these nails. I'm obsessed with this color. This is like my new go-to color. I love it. You know, something was wrong with your headphones. No, I usually, if it's been a minute since I've streamed, I will put a little bit of an extra 5-minute buffer on the start time, just in case if I boot up OBS, I have to like update something, or YouTube gets mad at me about the bit rate or something, you know. So I would like to give myself a little bit of a cushion just in case, not try to, you know, overpromise and underdeliver. But we are here. It is Friday, starting right on time. And yes, it's black but sparkly. This is like, I really like, I like black nails, but I feel like if you have a clear base, when it grows out, it looks a little bit more natural than like the really harsh line between natural nail and like grown out black nail polish. And I just feel like if I use a black sparkle base and then put other glitter on top, it looks so much better. So I'm not gonna, how many more times I'll do nails like this exactly? I'm kind of over the long nails, to be honest. It's very annoying to type with long nails, but I wanted them to at least like be long and grown out for Halloween. But I think I'll probably go back to like shorter nails after this run is through and they've grown out completely. Ooh, participated in the Cards Against Humanity night on Loving BDSM's Patreon and now watching Evie's live stream. All around good night. Oh, that's so fun. I like that idea. Cards Against, is it like a Zoom? Not like, you don't need to tell me, but I'm kind of curious. Like, I'm assuming it's some kind of like Zoom Cards Against Humanity game, or is it like an online version? That's so interesting. That was like all the rage when I was in college. I don't know how recently it had come out by the time I was in college, but definitely it's freshman year. It was like the big hot thing. Learned a lot of new fun words playing Cards Against Humanity. That is for sure. But how is everyone doing? What is going on with your Friday and your week? We didn't stream last week because I was at a BDSM convention, and I am editing a video right now that's talking about one specific experience I had at that convention that I think was really like eye-opening for me. But I'm just kind of like curious to share, and I thought in the it's actually, side note, I guess I did not communicate well enough during the last video that I posted that every day I've looked at my window and I've seen there is this one guy who goes around on a motorcycle around this time and like multiple times a day. And he goes up and down the street super loud. And it's like, I mean, thank goodness I don't have like a weird night shift job where I'm trying to sleep at 6 p.m. to be able to wake up to go to work at like 10 p.m. or something, you know? Like, come on, be considerate. But motorcycle guy aside, what was I talking about? Conference. Oh, the latest video I put out. The latest video I put out, which if you guys haven't seen, you should go watch it. It's sort of demystifying some of the edgiest kinks in BDSM, according to all of you. And I actually talked about that during a live stream I did a while ago, and I got a lot of answers like water sports and diapers and CNC and electricity, like electroplay was also very popular. And so I made a video talking about a couple of those and sort of going through, okay, why are people afraid of these? What are maybe some misconceptions about this type of play? And then what is it actually like? Why do people enjoy doing it? And then sort of finally, like, here's some beginner ideas, or if you're wanting to get more comfortable with the concept of that kink, here's some ways you can kind of like add it in and like maybe just try it on for size for a minute. But I put Halloween music in the background. I put Halloween music in the background, and that confused people. Like, I had people being like, why is this music in the background creepy? And I guess I didn't explain well enough that it was like a Halloween season video, which is why I put in like the Halloween background music. And I think probably for this coming week, so Monday is the night before Halloween, I will be streaming on Twitch on Monday, and then Tuesday, I don't know if we're gonna do like a bonus stream. I don't know. I want to stream. I'm gonna be doing a lot of streaming actually for the next like couple days. I'm gonna be doing like we're gonna be doing a movie night. We're gonna have the stream on Monday. We're doing the most. We are doing the most. And I would like to maybe play background music during at least one of those streams, but it's because it's Halloween themed, okay? Like, and the music is very divisive. Some people are very into the music and they're like, oh wow, I love it, it's so great. And some people are like, never put music in a video again. I'm like, all right, point taken. Personally, I only like having music in a YouTube video when it's thematically appropriate. Like, I have in the background of my 1950s video, I found like old recordings of like music they would play in like supermarkets and stuff, and like that's what's on in the background because it's kind of a long video, so you need a lot of music for it. And it's like copyright free. It's like, you know, the copyright on his lapse because it's been so long. And I put that in the background very quietly. And I don't remember getting any negative comments about that. But I try very hard to make it just barely audible if I do put it in there, because I know that some people are not for it and some people love it. And, well, like with everything, you can't make everyone happy. That is for sure. Yeah, Evie Lupine debunks kinks with facts and logic. Yeah. I destroy the kinks. I destroy the kinks in the what the heck is it? The marketplace of ideas. I destroy it in the marketplace of ideas with my facts and my logic. I'm always surprised water sports is so taboo for people, because for me it's always been kind of almost vanilla. I mean, I think it depends a little bit, I think, on how you were raised and like what your relationship to bodily fluids was growing up and like how your family treated it. And I also think a big part of it is like, how are you doing the water sports? Because it's sort of like, you know, bathroom control, I think for sure is basically like borderline vanilla. Like, it's not, you know, intentionally I picked that one as the beginner one because I think it's the least uncomfy for people. Whereas if it's like, I'm wearing a toilet bowl attachment on my harness gag and I'm drinking my partner's like piss directly from their urethra as it's coming out, like that's way more taboo to a lot of people than just like having to ask permission to use the bathroom. So it's on a spectrum of experiences, to be sure, but even that might, you know, that might feel vanilla. I wouldn't say that it feels vanilla to me to do something like that, but that's one of the wonderful things about kink, is we all have different experiences. Hello everyone. For sure. Okay, so I'm gonna rewind here for a second. Have an event to go to tonight, so I won't be able to tune in. Just wanted to pop in to say have a great evening. Well, thank you so much, Lexi. Thanks for stopping by. So before I get too far into it, I do want to say just like a couple things. So what do I want to say? Just isn't, I'm like forgetting how to stream. I'm like, I haven't done it in a week. I've completely forgotten. I streamed on Thursday. I streamed on Monday. So like, I haven't done the YouTube stream in a couple days, but just so we're all clear, in case anyone here is new, this is an 18 plus only live stream. If you're not at least 18, please do not be here. That is for everyone's safety, your safety, my safety, the chat's safety, just everyone, because mixing minors and adults in a kink space is just, it's not a good time. And if you want to learn more about kink, you can do it with age-appropriate resources, like there's Scarletine, there's Planned Parenthood's website, I think has some information now. Like there are ways to get information by professionals that are able legally and like with proper training to communicate these ideas to people that are underage. And then when you turn 18, please come back here. We do occasionally have people that tune in on their 18th birthday, which is so amazing, and you get to hang out with us then. So just to make sure we are all staying safe here, no minors please, and then read the rules down below. We have a very extensive, though not overwhelming, I hope, FAQ and links to other resources, answers to common questions. So if you're wondering something like, where do I buy a flogger? What books do you recommend? That kind of question. Chances are there's a link and a resource for that very question down below. However, I always encourage people to ask. Like the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to skip over your question. It's not going to get answered. So if you feel like you have a question that seems like it might be really common, like how do I tell my boyfriend I want to try kink? I'm always happy and open to answering those questions so long as, you know, it's if we're getting the same question over and over again in the stream, I'm not going to answer it repeatedly multiple times. And then also, going along with that, please don't spam the chat. That's like really the one big main rule is don't spam the chat. Please be polite. You know, we're a little tight-knit community here, and I love that. And I try to give everyone the best chance they have at getting their question answered. And I do go in the order that questions come in, so early is pretty much always better. And I just wanted to pop around, like if I'm looking for a follow-up question or something, I'll pop around and kind of like, basically have to look at like current chat and then like past chat simultaneously. So I try to stay up to date where the conversation is heading, but just don't spam the chat. I promise if it is an answerable question, I will at least read it out loud. Sometimes I may have to crowdsource from you all because I don't know everything about everything. Like if it's a very specific question about like chastity as a trans woman, I'm going to be like, I don't know about that. I have some vague ideas, but maybe somebody in the audience knows. And so I just like to make sure that, you know, everyone gets a fair turn, and spamming the chat will just make me upset and make me sad, and then I won't answer it because I'll feel like you didn't respect my rules, and then that'll be sad. And other than that, I just don't give advice about like medical or mental health stuff. So if you're like, is my bruise healing properly? Or I have schizophrenia, can I do BDSM? Like, I don't know. Like, can you? Like, maybe you should probably talk to a mental health professional about that, which is not me. And even if I was a mental health professional, it would be wildly inappropriate for me to give you advice about that in this arena, like in this setting. So just be nice, be respectful. And one of the things I love about having the community that we do is we do have so many different people that have all different levels of experience and different perspectives. And I sometimes will also read out if anyone else wants to answer a question I'm reading and give your own thoughts and opinions. I love doing that. I think that's really good to get multiple different sources to something. And so that's what I try to do here on these live streams here on Friday. And somehow I've rambled for 14 minutes before actually getting to a question, so I should probably get into it. Hope everyone is being nice. So far, definitely need some good vibes. I was having a struggle. I was having a struggle last night. I feel better today. I still feel tired and like a little bit overwhelmed, but doing better. Is my bruise healing properly? Shrug. I mean, basically, like, I don't know. If it's bad enough to where you're concerned about it, you should probably just go to an urgent care, or I guess you could probably go to the emergency room or whatever they call it in different countries besides the US. If you have like nice healthcare, like us, you could probably just go. But also there's like telehealth. There's other ways to get those questions answered by professionals, even if you don't necessarily have physical access to all of that. But living for today's content, emotional masochism is my kink, but there isn't much info out there. I actually don't think I've done a standalone video yet on just what emotional masochism is, and I'll definitely think about doing that. I could put that on the list. How is that not on there, honestly? How is that not on there? I literally, as I've oftentimes said, I keep a list on my phone of video ideas, and if an idea strikes me in the moment, I just write it down so I don't forget about it. And there's probably, I should probably honestly just like go through this because I haven't like cleared it out in a long time. Like I think I have like who cows on here like 3 times probably. I have one on ASMR, modification. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on here that I've done that we need to clear out. But tons of ideas, so many ideas for videos. But yes, emotional masochism. I just think this is a really good time of year with the creepy Halloween season. It's a great time to explore maybe those different emotions that we don't always explore in kink or not everyone feels comfortable exploring, like fear, like surprise, and they can be enjoyable and fun and contribute to a very pleasant scene experience. So excited to catch one of these live. I'm usually asleep. Also looking forward to what you have to say on emotional masochism. Well, if anyone has questions on emotional masochism to get us started in that direction, I'm definitely happy to answer any of those questions. I would also say, with just in general, the title of the live streams, I usually put a couple of ideas in there for like, we could talk about this, but really it ends up being whatever y'all want to talk about. So we could definitely talk about emotional masochism. If you all have questions about that specifically, or just like broadly, like what even is that, we can definitely get into that conversation. Or like sometimes we end up talking for like an hour and a half about like one thing, and it is like we have a lot of questions about it we gotta work through, you know. And I also love that too. Sometimes y'all come in and you're prepared with questions, and I love it. Thank you so much for your advice last stream about telling this guy I'm interested in about being a sex worker with DID. I told him, and he was very cool with it all. We still talk every day. Oh, I'm so excited for you. Yay. See, talking about things can have good, not consequences, but rewards. I love it. Yes, it is. I'm so happy, and I know it's always really scary. And for those who didn't watch that last stream, basically just to give a very brief overview of the point of that is essentially it is really scary to disclose certain things either before going on a date or when you're interested in somebody. I always think more disclosure earlier is better, because if they end up not liking you at all and being really turned off by it, they have less information about you they could then like cause harm with. Because if you got on a couple of dates and then you tell them, then they maybe know your license plate, where you live, your address, like where you work, like it just makes it a lot messier. So I always recommend doing things early when it's a lot easier to remove yourself from the situation, or even not go on the date at all if they seem to be pretty negative and judgmental about it. So I'm very glad that worked out for you, because it's a relief when you find somebody who is supportive and understanding, and I'm so glad you found that. So that's great. Thank you so much for the update. And I love updates. If I ever answer a question from one of y'all, I love, especially if it's like a personal relationship thing, or like I want to try this but I don't know how. I love getting updates, and I love hearing what y'all are doing. So thank you so much for that. Something was wrong with my headphones. No, just me being silly. I watched a video that was hilariously funny on stream last night, which I really needed. And it is a Brittany Broski video where she reacts to boyfriend ASMR. And I've never listened to any of the like boyfriend submissive dominant ASMR. And let me know, actually, you guys in the chat right now, how do you feel about ASMR videos? Like, do you like ASMR videos? Do you watch them? Would you want to see me reacting to like kinky ASMR videos? Because I guess we kind of got a hint of one in that Brittany Broski video, but they kind of equated submissive man with whiny. And I'm like, that's not really, they didn't really actually know Dom sub interactions actually occurred from what I could tell during that. So I'm kind of thinking maybe doing a reaction to some like kinky ASMR videos, because they're so popular. So very, very popular. So I like the idea of being able to, you know, explore that more and react to it, because I think it's an interesting, maybe potential new pathway into the kink community. Like, it's not erotica anymore. Like, it's not like romance novels. Now it's ASMR videos on YouTube, which I find to be a very interesting concept. I don't love ASMR. I find them to be a bit uncomfortable, but I would love you to see you react. Well, and also with specifically, like, from what I can tell, the boyfriend ASMR genre, or like the kinky ASMR genre, it's kind of like it's ASMR. Like it's like it'll be stuff like this where they're like whispering into the microphone, but it's more just like softly spoken. Like it's not like they're not actually, from what I can tell, at least from the recordings I've heard from that video, like they're not really going to try and like provoke that response, like with like the nails tapping on something or like flipping through a page. Like it's more like you're playing a role play game and like there's a character who just keeps like reading lines to you, and like you get to fill in the blanks of what you're saying between them saying lines. Like it is like ASMR, I believe we determined, stands for, it was like all like sexy men reading or something. Sexy men sexy men role play. It's basically what it is. But they don't always have the voice I'm expecting, which is kind of disappointing. Love BDSM ASMR videos. Absolutely love. Like, I can't live without it now. Well, if anyone has recommendations, I'll maybe do a post on like Twitter or something, or like maybe I'll make a Google form for submissions. But I will find a way for people to submit like your favorite like kinky BDSM ASMR channel, like public content. Not like, I know a lot of the stuff is like paywalled behind Patreon. I don't want no private stuff, but like public stuff I could listen to that's on YouTube would be great. I don't like them. My favorite ASMR are the roleplay stories. It's meant for completely different types of tingles. Oh, I see. Yeah, these ones are definitely more like the roleplay stories from what I can tell, which, yeah. I do like ASMR, but admittedly haven't listened to any in a long time. And I will also say there's a big range of ASMR. Some is sexual and basically erotica porn. Others ASMR is 0% sexual. That is definitely true from what I have observed. I have a love-hate relationship with ASMR videos. Oh, wait. A sexy man reading. Yes, that's what it is. Thank you. How many videos have you watched? The only one I've watched is somebody else reacting to an ASMR video. And then there was one that they cut out of the video that we watched for like 2 seconds, but it was super boring, and I fast forwarded through all of it. It was just not what I was expecting. I was very sad. I like the ASMR with triggers too, though. I can experience tingles. I like the voice line roleplay-ish stuff, though, you're referring to as well. I guess, is that technically still ASMR, or is it just like different ASMR? This is a joke to answer that. Well, too late. I did. I wish I could submit my favorites now, like I'm ready to go. But I don't have a form. I don't have anything. I don't know where to tell you to go. So I guess if I end up making a Google form or like a tweet or something, I will link it in like a pinned comment underneath the recording of this live stream. So if you want to submit it there, you can. But yeah, people, it's very divisive. Yeah, I can't stand ASMR. Like, yeah, some people just, it is not their jam whatsoever. So I find it interesting that it is something that people have such strong opinions about, you know? But yeah, ASMR. I've long wanted to do a reaction to kinky ASMR videos because they are all over my search results for when I look for oh, we have a visitor. One moment. Is that my little papita? Is that my little papita? Hello. Hello, come here. Oh, that's what I forgot to do. I forgot to set up the doggy cam again, but she's here. How are we, honey? Hi. How are we? What are we doing, huh? What's going on, sweetie pie? You know exactly when it's time for me to stream, huh? Well, more or less. You don't really have a clock. You're a dog. Oh, gosh. Okay. All right. I'll let you down. Okay. There we go. I knew I was forgetting something today, and I was like, I feel like I'm ready, and like I've got everything together. Like, what else could I not have together? And the answer was I didn't plug in the dog camera. But I'm not going to do that now because it's too late. The moment has passed. Yes. ASMR has been really helpful in lessening the intensity of my migraines. Interesting. I didn't know ASMR was that divisive. Maybe ASMR should be in the part 2 edge play video. It's not my hard limit, but sounds like it is for some people. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily like a kink thing that people have as like a limit, but I think the concept of it is very divisive. And if I had to guess why, I think for a lot of people, it's cringy. Like in the way that like romance novels with like the very obvious covers with the bodice rippers, you know, like those are cringy too for people. And like a lot of people won't openly admit they ever read those or enjoy those, but obviously they do because they're very popular books. But you know, I think some people just like they see a title, like one of the ones in the video was like Tsundere werewolf boyfriend like is like drags you back to bed at 3 a.m. or like some shit like that. And I find that so interesting as a concept. Like it's so specific also at the same time. But I think you can find stuff that really speaks to people's very particular niche kinks. Like if a tsundere werewolf dominant switch boyfriend is your kink, congrats. Now you have an opportunity to engage in that in a way that maybe you would not have otherwise been able to. So I like it. I think overall it's probably positive. It's just like it came on the scene out of nowhere, and I think it's interesting to kind of call it ASMR when really what it is, oftentimes at least, is like sexual, like verbal sexual role play. Like it's basically like one-way phone sex. And I'm like, I don't know if we should be calling this ASMR. That might confuse some people, but I'm sure some people, like some of it is like, nobody's watching this to relax, you know? Like this is not something people are tuning in for because they're like, oh, I'm going to relax while I listen to this. But you know, it's funny. I watch friend POV ASMR vids because I just like to feel like I have friends. I don't like the tingle only soft spoken ones. Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's sort of like, that's not really the kink stuff, but I can see why. Like, I think it maybe like scratches that same itch as a mukbang does, where it's like people don't like feeling alone when they eat food. Some people don't, at least. And so like having somebody to share a meal with when you're, you know, alone in your college dorm, or you're traveling for work or something, like, or you just don't have any people that are friends with you in the area, it's nice to have shared meal time with other people. And so, like, there are people who watch, like, mukbang videos because they are, like, feeders, and they enjoy, like, sexually, they enjoy the idea of, like, somebody eating a bunch of food and watching that. But then other people, like, they enjoy it for like perfectly normal reasons, and they just are like, I like feeling like I have a friend in a community that I can share a meal with and spend time with other people in like a friendly setting, which I think is really true of live streaming in general. Honestly, I think a lot of it is very like, you know, it's harder these days to have a real life community of people we're friends with, and online isn't a perfect substitute by any means, but it's certainly better than just not having any friends at all. Yeah. Most ASMR is what people put on when they want to sleep. Yeah. And I mean, maybe honestly, some of it to listen to is so boring that I'm like, maybe that is the point. Maybe I'm trying to fall asleep listening to a romance novel so I have sexy dreams. Is that the point? Like, sometimes I don't fully get it. I think I like the audio erotica, or the, like they're kind of cringe. Yeah, I think it's cringy for people to like, and I certainly had that response even listening to somebody else react to some of the erotica. Like the titles alone were like, oh my lord, like what? Like, but then also it's like, I kind of like respect people that are brave enough to own what their kinks are and be like, yeah, I like tsundere werewolf boyfriend roleplay videos. So what? That's who I am. But I feel like it crosses over, from what I could see, it does cross over into this uncomfortable territory sometimes of people taking it too far, like in the comment section. Like we're not understanding this as like an acted role play thing. They're like, I love this man, and like, well, what do you mean you love him? He does ASMR roleplay online for money. Oh god. Like, you know, people make fun of men online for being like, I love this OnlyFans model, but like, They're not the only ones falling in love with strangers on the internet because they talk sexy. You know what I mean? Like it goes all different directions with people. So some people get overly invested in it. It's like, all right, gotta slow down here for a second. This is not a real relationship. This is a video. This isn't personal. Like people get a little overly personal sometimes in these videos, but. Oh, thank you. First time catching your stream live. And I just want to say I love your submissive sadist / dominant masochist video. Thank you so much. The body worship as extreme cute aggression idea was a game changer. Oh, I'm so happy. That was one of those videos that I don't think it performed very well, but it's one of those niches that I know is very underrepresented. So I'm willing to have it not perform well because I know for people like you, like it's important to hear that information. I'm glad that helped you. So yay. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Okay. Anyways, kinky ASMR videos. What's going on there? I don't know. It's very funny stuff, for sure. It's remarkably weirdly tame. Yeah, exactly. Like the titles versus what gets delivered is very interesting. Like, yeah, we watched one that was like, jealous husband wants to breed you. And like, that is not what happened in that ASMR. Like, Brittany Broski skipped over it, and I assumed it was because it was so, like, intense. But really, it was, like, it almost sort of felt like it was going to be, like, a husband discovers his bisexual awakening enemy to lovers thing. Like, the most of the time was spent on the husband character, like being competitive with the neighbor next door and then like talking about how good the cookies that you the character like made are, and it's like I kept fast forwarding and then it kept still being about cookies. And like, I mean, I guess it's nice to have a role play like where somebody appreciates the things that you do for them. Like, I get why it would be included, but it was just funny how like consistent that was. Like, I'd fast forward and it would be like, oh, these are the best cookies. Then it'd be like a cookie eating noise. I'd fast forward again. I'd be like, oh, you're trying to get my wife's secret cookie recipe. And I'd fast forward again and it'd be like, can you make me more of those cookies? It's just cookies over and over and over again. Just all over the place. They're often overacted. They sound way worse than just regular porn audio, in my opinion. Yeah, I think for me, what wasn't hitting when I heard it before was just like the voices were wrong. Like, I was being sold like something that was like in the Britney video, at least it would be like dominant alpha male wants to conquer you. And then the audio would be like a whiny 19-year-old boy's voice. He'd be like, babe, you're taking too long in the shower. And it's like, that is not what a dominant man sounds like. That's what a Daria character sounds like. And you know what? If they're popular and they make money, like, they're popular for a reason. And I'm not gonna make fun of anybody's career here on YouTube because it is an odd, wacky world. But I guess I was expecting everyone, as I've said during the live stream, I was expecting everyone to sound like Corpse Husband. Like, I was expecting everyone to have like a super like low baritone, like gravelly voice, like very authoritative. And instead it just all ended up being kind of like whiny teenager sounds, and I was like, are we sure these people are adults? Are we sure adults are making this content? Is this okay? I was a little bit worried there for a second, but thankfully from what we could tell, they were in fact all adults, so thank God. I feel extremely called out on the ASMR now, both on specifics and on needed critiques. I have come to the right stream. Well, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I'm not yucking anybody's yum. I think if you love ASMR, that's great. I had one very particular idea of what I thought it was going to be like, and then I started to listen to it, and I was like, oh, what? Okay. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like if I clicked on an ASMR because I wanted a dominant alpha male to drag me back to bed, and then like 50% of the runtime was spent like talking about the neighbor across the street and cookies, I would be like, this isn't what I ordered. You lied to me. That's false advertising. That's false advertising. Not allowed. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with some of the voice acting. But you know what? If we have some ASMR aficionados or ASMR-nados, that's almost a thing. We have some ASMR aficionados in the chat on the channel. Like I said, I will pin a link down below in the description or in the like a pinned comment, or I will do it, or maybe also combination of things, right? I'll also put something on Twitter probably to let people submit links or names to their favorite kinky ASMR content creators, and maybe I'll be proved wrong. Maybe I'll find my secret kink. And I mean, like, I think it's nice, like, when people find, I think ASMR and, like, YouTube videos, I can definitely see that as a very gentle, comfortable introduction into, like, kink content more broadly, like, as an easy way to process that kind of thing of, you know, I'm not, like, it's not, like, straight up regular pornography. It's not going on FetLife. Like, I think it's a lot more accessible, and I think if you have a more niche kink, like, if you're, you know, if you want a submissive werewolf boyfriend, like, that's very specific. It's hard to find content for that. So I'm glad when people do have that and, like, get to explore that kind of thing, because there's really not a lot of other opportunities of places to do that. ASMR nados, that should be what they're called. Yes. Yeah, like ASMR aficionados, but compressed together. I don't know if there's another word for people that are, like, a fan of ASMR videos, but... False advertising, welcome to the world of bad clickbait. Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm not completely innocent when it comes to clickbait either. Like, I try to drum up interest based on a thumbnail or a title, but I don't try to, like, lie about the content of the video, other than, like, the 2 videos I made that were joke videos about, like, 100% guaranteed ways to find a submissive, which continue to be extremely popular videos, for the record. I still get people every single week that go on that video and leave a comment not realizing that it's a fake video because they didn't watch more than 5 seconds of it before leaving a comment, and just very entertaining for me as a content creator. I will definitely say that. People regularly try and fail to emulate Corpse Husband. I mean, there is only one Corpse Husband, and, you know, if you guys don't know this way, the reason his voice is that way is because he has a degenerative condition that makes his voice sound like that, and, like, I'm sure he would like, you know, he's had a career kind of based on his voice a little bit, but also, like, I'm sure he would pick having a normal voice and, like, whatever his regular speaking voice would have been versus having the degenerative condition that he has. But, you know, don't try to, like, you can own your own voice and develop skill as a voice actor without just trying to be one specific other person, you know, like, lead into your own unique vocal qualities, I guess, even if that means being a whiny California surfer boy type. I mean, some of my videos are clickbait. I'm trying to think of one. If they are ever clickbait, it's very borderline. But they're never bad clickbait. That's true. I saw that title and didn't watch because I thought you were being for reals. Yeah. I did have sunglasses on in the thumbnail, and I thought for some reason that would help signal to my usual audience that it wasn't a normal video. Like, I literally had a 100% satisfaction guaranteed seal logo on the thumbnail. And I thought those 2 things together for some reason by itself would be enough for people to be like, there's no way this can be for real. But alas, it was in fact for real. So there you go. Okay. We've talked about ASMR for a hot minute. Let's get into some questions. Cards Against Humanity. Love your content so much. It is one of my favorite educational sources. Well, thank you so much, Wolf. I really appreciate that. That is great. Sorry guys, haven't had a chance to make the r/inclusive housewife subreddit. I know it's been 2 weeks, but I've had so much. Hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. The subreddit is gonna wait for you. Like, I don't imagine anyone's taking that name anytime soon. I know, literally, there is drag racing outside. I'm not even kidding you. Literally, there's a parking lot across the street that people do. I don't know if they drag race, but they do donuts and stuff in there, and they have no respect. No respect at all. I get very triggered from being called bad by my dom. Naughty is too corny, lol. Do you have any thoughts on a good alternative word for that? Oh, to naughty? Okay, so naughty and bad are both out. Let's think about this. So, it was like disobedient, I feel like is the one that immediately comes to mind for me. Disobedience, misbehaving, indecent. I mean, depending on what the offense is, right? Because, like, you could be you could be naughty or disobeying for lots of things, right? But I think indecent is probably a good one. Let me see, what else would I use? What else would I use for that? Like specifically, I think maybe kind of going more on the disobedient side, because kind of stick with that maybe. Unruly, I think being unruly is probably a good one, because this doesn't quite bring up a feeling of being brat, at least to me, but I think that's like, it's not too wordy, pretty short one. Troublesome, that's probably a good one. Defiance, definitely defiant, acting out. Willful, if you want to be very wordy, you could say like intractable, things like that. Impish, I know a lot of people like saying they're like a goblin, so you can say you're impish, right? A lot of people say, I'm not a brat, I'm like a goblin, and I just like, you know. So people relate to being a goblin, I don't know. That's gonna be the next big kink, is goblin roleplay. Hear me out. It's gonna be a thing. Delinquent, I guess, which I feel like delinquent might be a little bit more too much along the lines of like bad. Mutinous. You can be mutinous if you're into pirate roleplay, or just like any power exchange of like military roleplay type stuff. That could be good. Impertinent, that's a good one. Tempting, yeah, you're tempting me. Yeah, impertinent is a good one. Yeah, bratty. Oh, petulant. Petulant is a really good one. I feel like bratty, if you're not trying to be a brat, that is, at least in the community, I think that's probably a little bit too specific. Yeah. Being smart, you're acting smart. Like if it's more like talking back, eye rolling, like willfully disobeying type being bad, you could say don't get smart with me. Why are you acting smart right now? That's a good one. Is it too fancy? However, I am looking forward to using impertinent strumpet in a scene. Yes. I mean, I think you should get fancy with it, you know? They did add Chaos Gremlin and Goblin to FetLife. They also added my favorite, Goblin King. They added Goblin King, which there's going to be like 2 people that ever use Goblin King as a kink identifier on FetLife, but somebody asked for it and they received, so, Goblin roleplay was started on the D&D sub-editor for sure. I mean, yeah, a lot of people like being a goblin. That is a truant. Insolence, also very good. Roguish, perhaps uncooperative. That's a very common one, right? Where you're being non-compliant, right? Rebellious. So many options to say besides being bad. I feel like words like bad, fun, good, they're very quick, like easy words for us to say. And it, like, if you can stop and like consciously substitute a different word, I think it'll be very easy to find something that, you know, maybe hits a little bit better than just bad does or naughty. So yeah, happy to help with that for sure. Your last video on taboo kinks was so good. I'm sure a lot of people got a lot of ideas and a lot to think about from it, as did I. Well, that is great, Stella. Thank you. I'm definitely doing a part 2. I don't have it like fully scripted out yet, but I'm definitely going to be talking about a few of the things that I saw a lot in comments, like fire play, for example, which it's something that I forget about. Like at one point earlier in my kink journey, fire play seemed to be much more of a thing. And I think that was because of like the venues I was near, and like there were more outdoor events where like you could do fire play. But I think a lot of people just don't really know about fire play because it's just not allowed at a lot of places. I don't think I've been to a lot of conventions. I have been to, across the country, probably at least a dozen different conventions at this point. I've been to 4, 7, 9. Yeah, I think probably about a dozen. I think it's fair to say. I've been to about a dozen kink conventions, and as far as I can remember, I don't think I've ever seen a class on fire play before, because hotels definitely don't allow it, and expo centers probably don't allow it. I think really the only place you could learn about fire play is maybe on like a kinky camping trip or like private property, and a lot harder to find that. And also, like, you know, depending on where you live, it may be something that is more accessible than not. So fire play will be on there, and certainly many other kinks will be on there as well. Yes, fire play. So I guess I've said it, so I will just give a, so no one like gets maybe a misunderstanding in their head. So fire play generally is like you use fire as a tool during a scene, and it's something that is done very lightly and quickly. It's not like sustaining burns on the skin. Like ideally, it's not supposed to do that. It's more like if you've seen somebody that like does like fire eating or like fire poi, it's more like that. Like it's not meant to be like a fireplace when you cause somebody second and third degree burns over their whole body. Like no, like a fire drumming I would say is probably the most popular, which is, or like fire cupping as well, it's also popular too. Although I don't necessarily know if that's something people primarily consider to be a form of fire play, but like fire cupping is another way of thinking about that. Like it's not about burns, it's about like very brief hot sensations. Which I prefer to wax play. I actually find wax play to be much more intense than like fire drumming is, but it's you know, not something I've done recently due to various limitations. Yeah. I think most people are also relatively intimidated by fire play and their ability to do it more safely. That's also true. I think especially the lack of visibility and education around it is one problem. And actually thinking about this now, there was a story I heard on FetLife a while ago, probably over a year ago now, that was somebody that they had a fireplace scene, I think actually at a venue, go wrong, and I think I think they maybe were doing a fire cupping scene. And I apologize. I saw this story a while ago. I don't fully remember. I'm not trying to misrepresent anybody's story, but just like even if this isn't the exact story, this story will still have a like the point will still be the same regardless. But there was a story on FetLife that was somebody doing a fireplace scene. I believe it was at a public venue, and it was basically a lesson about like not pre-filling your like cups, like your fire play cups with alcohol. And like having more control over your alcohol container when you're doing fire play, because what ended up happening is a bunch of stuff spilled and it caused really nasty burns. And like obviously you don't want to have that happen. Like, luckily I believe they had some fire suppression equipment and they were able to like tamp stuff out, but it was still really scary. Like being on fire would be scary, and especially when it's not like the way you expect it to happen. And like you know, it was not a good situation to be in. So yes, it can be very dangerous, and I think especially if you have imperfect information where you think you kind of know what you're doing, but you kind of have to wing it because the education for that very specific thing is not available. Like it is more likely that you're going to cause injury, which is unfortunate, but also, you know, burns are one of the risks of fire play, and you can't assume it's never going to happen. Yeah, I would say fire play, if it's done well by somebody who knows what they're doing, it can be relaxing. It can also be very masochistically intense, but I'll talk about it more in the part 2 of the edge play video. So that's kind of just like a little bit there. I don't think I'll talk about that story I remember reading on FetLife, you know, during the video itself, but just to put it out there, I want to acknowledge that it can be quite dangerous, but it's still not, you know, it's not impossible to do in a safer way. Yeah. There's actually a lot of fire players where I live, so I'm kind of spoiler for teaching opportunities. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I don't know. It's like Kink is so regional. Like I think it's important to remember that Kink is so regional from place to place, and what is common in one area is like unheard of somewhere else, and vice versa. Like where I've lived, things like blood play are very popular. Bondage is very popular. Hook pulls are popular. Like, and these are more like niche kinks. I don't like everyone kind of everywhere does like flogging and spanking and like light bondage and all of that. But for more niche kinks, I would say like fire play, scarification, decorative needles. Did I say fire play? I meant blood play. Blood play, scarification, decorative needle stuff, shibari suspension, hook pulls. You know, those are all like, they're not necessarily done all of the time, but it is certainly very possible to find information about it and find things about. Also, electroplay, I wouldn't say it's super common at parties, but you definitely hear of it and see it, whereas like fire play is like, no one does that. And there's other kinks too that are relatively uncommon that not a lot of people do. But yeah, this kink is so regional. So that's one of the reasons why I like traveling, is like I get opportunities to learn from people that I don't normally get to always learn from. Excuse me. I've heard people claim that fire play is the most dangerous kink, and I kind of disagree. Breath play always takes the cake for me. Well, I guess it depends on what you like assume is what makes someone what makes something the most dangerous. Like, is it just like if it goes catastrophically bad, it's the worst possible outcome? Or to me, more what I consider to be a riskier form of play is like, okay, so if you're playing with like kind of standard best practice safety protocol, how common is it that something will go wrong, and how bad is it / long lasting is it when it happens? With like fire play, like the worst possible outcome is relatively rare, but it is very catastrophic. Whereas with rope bondage, if you're doing something like a TK, your arms are tied behind your back, you're doing suspensions, things like that, like, you know, things like nerve damage are very, very common. And they're not necessarily always life-changing in the way that, like, a full body burn would be, for example. But, you know, or even like a partial thickness burn over a lot of your body. But you know, it's like people don't see them as being the same. Like, definitely the mental component is very big for people's assessment of what makes something risky or not, or dangerous or not. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like probably like breath control to the point of passing out and like rope bondage. I mean, actually, you know what? I'm going to amend that. What I probably think is consistently the most dangerous kind of across all spectrums is rough body play and wrestling. That is the thing that people get injured doing probably the most. And there is education about it. It is like to some degree accessible, but when you're grappling and throwing people and, you know, doing stuff like that, it is very likely that not only will the bottom be injured, but the top will also be injured, which is not necessarily a risk with many of the other riskier forms of play. So, like, many people can be injured doing that. Like, whoever is involved can be injured, and it also can be anywhere in the level from, like, mildly uncomfortable, like a twisted ankle, all the way over to catastrophic, like, punctures, or like injuries to an eyeball, or like breaking or losing teeth. Like, you know, it can run the gamut of risk for sure. And you know, rough body play, I don't ever see anyone talk about it as being like, oh, it's super risky. And maybe it's because people, like, it's not super popular in dungeons to do that kind of play. But I also think people don't really know enough about it either. And like, one of the first scenes I ever did in the community right after I had joined my first dungeon, I did like a wrestling takedown scene with a friend. And like, I did not know what the fuck I was doing. Like, I had been in the scene for like an amount of time you could measure in weeks. Like, I had barely been in the scene at all. I didn't understand any of the risk of any of this stuff yet. I hadn't taken any classes. I did not know what I was getting into. And I didn't quite understand fully, like, negotiation and consent and risk profiles. Like, none of that had been explained to me at this point fully. Like, I understood, like, safe words. I knew those were a thing. Like, I knew a little bit, but not enough. And nothing went catastrophically bad, but, like, I'm having trouble. I think somebody had to check me for a concussion, but the way I remember it is kind of like from a third person point of view. So I'm like, wait, did that happen to me, or did I watch somebody else get checked for a concussion? I don't remember what happened exactly, which maybe is an indication that something went wrong and I did actually experience it. But you know, it's something I got into very early on in my kink career. Then quickly after that, I was like, oh, this is too risky. So I guess part of my apprehension towards rough body play also comes from a personal experience there. So it's fun, but it definitely can go wrong. So I remember, I think I hit my head on something. I don't remember what happened exactly. I kind of remember, like, because this is so long ago now, like, you know, probably a couple years ago, I could have told you the full story in, like, detail. But honestly, it ended up not really mattering that much. Like, I wasn't injured. Nothing bad happened. Like, it ended up being totally fine. But I didn't, like, purposely try to log it in my memory because I didn't know. Like, I didn't know what was normal for kink yet. And whereas now, if I had that experience, I would be actively trying to remember everything that happened and how something went wrong and kind of trying to troubleshoot it. Whereas before, I was just like, oh, it just happened. Like, I didn't think I needed to, like, make sure to preserve the memory, you know? rough body play is really difficult to break into, even if you've had taken classes and have the practical knowledge, because it's really hard to know how well you will react to that kind of impact. That's also true. Yeah, like definitely the unpredictability of a full-on fight or flight response when you're essentially doing what amounts to like full contact, no protection, like grappling and like wrestling and stuff. Where you don't have the normal protective equipment that maybe you would otherwise have. And like if you're doing, sparring for a martial art or something where you'd have on like the head protection and the gloves, like usually people are not wearing that for their kink scenes because it ruins the headspace. And so you can't wear stuff like that. And like it's expensive and blah, blah, blah. Right. Yeah. Anyways, I don't know how I got onto rough body play exactly. I don't know. Oh, we were talking about taboo kinks. That's right. Water sports, just debunking everything with facts and logic. Yep. Hi, everyone. Glad to join today. Yeah, thanks for being here, Doug. Yeah. I've asked one night stands to pee on me. They've always been surprised beginner trying to like, yeah, interesting. Okay. I would love to know what that's like from their perspective of like, I had this one night stand who wanted me to pee on them. Like, what do they take away from that experience? I wonder. Are they like kinky one night stands? Or are you just like meeting up with vanilla people and then just being like, hey, I have a thing I'm into? That's brave. That is brave. I could not do that. I'm a slow burn girly. I don't want to. One night stands are not my jam. But more power to you if that's your thing for sure. I got my first real bulldog harness today. It feels great to try out leather, all for a Halloween costume. I mean, that is a perfect excuse. Congrats, Doug. That's a big to-do. I hadn't thought about who cows does sound like who cows? Yeah, exactly. Good question. No, like it's human cows is what who cow stands for, which is interesting because that's like the only form of like pet play or pet play adjacent thing with that phrase that we don't say like who cat or who dog or I mean that could be a meme right there. Who dat dog? I don't know. That's bad. Like nothing else has the who in front of it, which I find to be interesting as a choice. You don't answer medical stuff, but I'm wondering if there's an update or more info about breast slapping. I watched a video of yours where you said that impact play on the breast can cause cancer. If I talked about that in a video, that was a very long time ago because that's not something I've known for the last couple of years. So the studies that we have, and I'm only talking about this because I have studies I can refer to. This is from Shay Tiziano. She has a website where she's a medical provider. She like debunks a lot of kink bullshit. So I'm like, this isn't my knowledge and wisdom. This is her wisdom I'm stealing from. But she has an article where she debunks like different common BDSM, like wives' tales and common wisdom and stuff. And one of them is that impact play on the breast can cause cancer. And the reason why we think that is we are sort of deriving from studies about seatbelt related injuries to breast tissue, and that eventually leading down the line to an increased risk of breast cancer. And we can't really say that there is a one-to-one correlation between the impact of a car crash and a seatbelt injury on chest tissue and breast cancer and kink, and that those things are all interconnected together, and that it's a one-to-one comparison between, consensual like kinky roughhousing and like a full-on seatbelt injury. Because like, right, if you are needing the breast tissue and causing bruising, like how intense is so intense that you would be getting into the territory of potentially causing cancer? Like, we don't really know. We don't really have studies. So there is a possibility, potentially, if there is an accurate extrapolation to make between seatbelt injuries and other forms of like breast tissue or chest tissue injury, maybe there is a risk there, but we don't really have a clear understanding of that. So there is potentially a link, sort of inferring stuff from other sort of related areas, but also like not necessarily either. So as far as I know, there is not any new information about that or about a link or anything more definite. Like I don't imagine anyone's out there doing studies on like, consensual like roughhousing and it leading to like increased risks of cancer. Like, and I only ever heard about it from a seatbelt injury perspective. I haven't heard about it in terms of like, you know, people that do martial arts and get kicked on the chest a lot, or people that do like aerial arts or gymnastics where they are putting a lot of pressure on their chest constantly and like bruising around their chest because that's where you lean into the hoop or lean onto the pole or like whatever it is, right? Like there was sort of related to this, you know, there in gymnastics on the uneven bars, which is an event in women's gymnastics, in the 80s, especially if you watch Olympic gymnastics, there was a move that people would do, which because the bars were a lot closer together than they are today, one of the ways that people would transition from high to low bar and like do certain moves is essentially it involves slapping the front of the pelvis onto the bar directly. And there has been some concern that that could lead to like infertility or like ovarian cancer or uterine cancer because of like the repeated trauma that is presumed to happen on that area when you are using that as like a point in the routine and like you're you know hitting onto that. And like I guess I'm not sure to what extent that actually ever caused injuries in gymnasts, if it ever did, if it actually caused bruising initially to perform that kind of maneuver on uneven bars. I don't know. But from what I understand, you know, people will look at that, you know, sort of stuff on video and go, oh my God, you know, they're damaging their fertility forever. But that isn't actually what has happened over the long term as far as we know it at this point in time. Though that move is still not allowed. It hasn't been allowed in like literal decades in women's competitive gymnastics. Like the bars are different. I don't even think you could even do a move like that these days, even if you wanted to, simply because of how far apart the bars are, unless you were doing something on the same bar. But anyways, I'm not a gymnast. I don't know. Like, that's just what I've heard because I like competitive gymnastics. But yeah, it's stuff like that where we can kind of extrapolate or assume things where, like, you know, trauma and injury to a certain area of tissue may make it more likely that you would have, like, tumors or cancer in the future. And I think we know from other areas that, like, you know, certain forms of trauma can lead to an increased risk of tumors or cancer in the future because not all tumors are cancerous. But, jury's out on it. I would say if you are concerned, if you like a family history of breast cancer, maybe that's something to be aware of. But like, you know, if you're playing anywhere on the body and causing repeated injury, you know, I don't see why, for example, doing something on the upper back or the thighs would necessarily be super different. But I don't know. I'll get to my doctor. I don't know. But it's something to be aware of, but no new information about it. It is an interesting subject, though. I think that I would love to, just for the safety of our community, there are so many things I would love to have more information about in terms of, like, does this have long-term ramifications? And if it does, what the heck are they, right? Like, things like CBT, right? Chastity devices. Are there long-term impacts of wearing a chastity device every single day for years? Like, do you lose, like, is it permanent? How much is it? How much do you lose actual, like, length on your penis? Is it safe for you? How does it impact fertility? Like, especially very intense CBT. Again, this is kind of a related area. We don't really have any strong evidence to indicate that it for sure causes fertility issues. But certainly, if you are punching and stabbing and poking at the family jewels, I think you are running a risk those family jewels are going to lose their luster a little bit. You know what I mean? So you know, I think I can theorize that it could lead to possible issues, but I don't have any evidence about that. Would love to know because I think obviously it's very popular with a lot of male masochists and submissives, and I would like it if I could give them accurate information about the risks of what they're choosing to engage in. Because if you're you know, young and dumb, and you're 18, and you're a very, very eager male submissive who has been watching, you know, BDSM porn for their entire adolescence, and then finally get to join the BDSM community and find a dom, and both, you know, your partner and you, like, love going to town on your balls, and, like, just, that's, like, your thing, is you love being punched in the nuts and kicked in the nuts as hard as possible. That's, like, your kink. It would be really nice to know the decisions you're making at 18, whether or not those affect you when you're trying to start a family at 35. You know, like, it would be nice to know that, because I think, I'm not necessarily sure it would change people's opinions and what they choose to do, but having that information out there, I think, would still be a good idea in general. Or things like bondage and nerve injuries and repetitive damage as opposed to acute damage. I think a lot of us are very aware in the community because it's very easily able to be observed, like the risk of acute injury in things like bondage and handcuffs and things like that. But the repetitive injury of like, okay, well, like it's fine when you do it 99 times, but the 100th time causes a problem. Like, how safe is it if you're practicing doing TKs because you love doing traditional Japanese shibari? If you do that every single day for years, like even if you're not experiencing acute nerve issues with it, can there be a risk of repetitive nerve injury from like even just the mild compression of nerves or tissue over a certain area? Like, can that cause nerve injury on a longer, or just nerve irritation? Maybe not injury, but irritation if you're doing it often enough, repeatedly, even if it's not rising to the level where you notice it on a more acute basis. So yeah, lots of things to think about, I think, in terms of safety and studies. And I think it's important to, if you're trying to conduct your kink in a way that is very risk informed, it's important to be aware of the risks that you do and don't already know. And certainly like the long-term impacts of repetitively doing the same thing over and over again is something to be aware of. Like, for example, with spanking, I just have so many examples of this. Like with spanking or with impact play, if you are doing repeated impact play to a high level, especially over one area over and over and over again, you can develop a skin reaction called leather butt. And, it can cause a loss of sensation in that area. It can cause, when you do experience injury over that tissue again, it causes a sort of like weird, like skin sloughing off. Like it ends up being very like leaky and crusty and gross and like not good. So we do know there are impacts in certain areas of kink from long-term repetitive play. So I don't think it's impossible for there to be other long-term impacts with play, which is why I am an experimentalist and I do lots of different stuff with my kink and I mix it up. So I'm never going to be the person where I know people that even they do TKs or rope of whatever kind, but especially TKs in the same area of their body over and over and over again, where they have permanent marks on their arms from the amount of times that they have put rope over a certain area of their body. So, sometimes it's hot and sometimes you really wouldn't want to experience that. So it's another, I would say though, if you're developing a skin callus, like if that's really what it is, that'll probably go away. Like I had a skin callus from wearing a locked anklet for a couple years, and it took, I would say, I'm trying to feel if it's still like kind of there at all. I would say that my ankles are more or less equal now. I would say the ankle that had the anklet on it, even now, slightly, very slightly, maybe like 10% different. It is like 10% less touch sensitive than my other ankle is. Like the callus that built up underneath where the anklet will rub against my ankle has gone away over time, but that area of the body was still so habituated to that stimulus to where now, like, it's still a little bit, which, like, it's had advantages. Like, if I had to do certain moves with, like, ankle hooks, like, it's great for that. Like, if you're into aerial stuff, having ankles that can take a little bit of a beating, because for some people, they can't do stuff with, like, ankle hooks at all, because the area of the body that happens on is so sensitive, whereas for me, it's like, I'm hanging out, here I am. But yeah, so definitely things to think about and consider as you're getting into play. Mix it up a little bit. Maybe don't do the same TK you do all the time. Maybe do a hands-free chest harness. Maybe do something on the thighs or the back instead of just on the butt, like mix it up. I think generally speaking, if you're taking a diverse sample of kink, you are going to lower your risk overall of any negative side effects. But, that's sort of, that's where I'm at on that conversation. Anyways, I just rambled about that one for a long time. Okay. And it freaked me out because I recently discovered I'm really into that, but I don't want to do it. It was bad for me. Okay. So I will say, if you like doing something, but you're freaked out because you're afraid it's bad for you, I would say sort of the way I would handle this personally. This is how I would do it. I'm not saying you should do it this way, but this is what I would do. I would either play at a lower level more frequently or play at a higher level more infrequently. So you can, as opposed to doing it at the maximum level of intensity that you enjoy all of the time, I think that's probably going to be the highest risk for bad side effects. But if you can either do it less frequently but at a level of intensity that you enjoy, or doing it more regularly, more mildly, I think that's probably the way to go. Like, I also really enjoy, like one of my favorite things in kink is I love it when people fucking get in there and like, you know, like twist my flesh around and do stuff like that. I love that all over my body, and that includes breast tissue and chest tissue. And you know, like, I don't do it all the time, but it's something that I enjoy, and I don't do it often enough to where I'm like being like, am I gonna give myself breast cancer? Because I never do it to the point where it's like causing massive, like, I don't even know if you can get hematomas on your. I have very small breasts, so like also part of this for me is like I don't have a lot of like real estate up in this general area, so like I don't get like hematomas. I don't get like really really intense bruising when I play up here. But if I was playing up here, I would play within those guidelines. So like I'm okay with a little bit of bruising, but I don't want to have my chest be like black and blue entirely the next day. You know, that would be too far for me personally. Just in general for comfort reasons, and also like sort of thinking about the risk of like that level of damage associated with that probably would be outside of my risk profile. But you know, yeah, it's definitely individual. I don't think doing it occasionally is gonna like, you know, kill you. You know, but like, again, we don't know. And so it depends on how comfortable you are playing with that level of unknown and how you decide you want to mitigate that, if through anything. But everything has risk in it in kink. Anything has risk in it. So it's, you know, you got to kind of pick and choose what risk you are willing to accept and not. Like, there's certainly a lot of play that I enjoy doing that I don't do very often, because either I don't have partners that play on a high enough level for me to feel comfortable going into that territory, or, you know, the risk of it to myself personally is too high. Like, I like scarification. I like decorative cutting stuff. I like things with like scalpels and stuff, but I don't do that very often because like I don't want to have like my whole back be scar tissue. I don't want to develop, you know, scar tissue over like certain muscle groups, because like, I don't know what that's gonna do. Like, is that gonna be a problem? Like, is it gonna cause mobility issues in the future if like my whole back is like super scarred up? I don't know. So I'm not gonna do it. And also because like, you know, the more scar tissue you have over a certain area, like I just also don't like aesthetically how that looks. So I have to be kind of careful how I am developing that real estate, you know. So anyways, wow, that definitely went in a direction for sure. I really enjoy playing with degradation and justification, but my partner is more of a caregiver type dom who prefers a softer approach. Any advice on finding a middle ground? Yes. So I think obvious, you know, to me at least, when I hear that, the first thing my brain went to was praise kink. Because if depending on you, depending on how you experience humiliation, degradation, all of that, I think you can loop praise kink from like, you know, oh, you're so good, you're so special, I love you, into like you can do it so much that it becomes infantilizing and degrading. So like maybe that might be a way to play with being degraded that maybe feels like safer and better for your caregiver. I would also say in general, for a caregiver type, they're probably going to be less comfortable with ways of implementing a feeling of degradation and making you feel like an object, that are going to be things that are like, you're stupid, you're bad, you're wrong, you're worthless, you're terrible, blah, blah, blah. Like, they probably don't want to say stuff like that, but they might enjoy more of a perspective where it's like, you know, you're lesser than me because I have to take care of you. You know, I need to do that for you because you can't do it for yourself because you're too incompetent. And you can figure out a way to phrase that feels maybe friendly to your partner, but it's still like you're being put down and degraded by your partner, but also they are still caretaking you at the same time. Like, they're brushing your teeth for you or packing your lunch, and like that's lovely and kind, but also they're doing it because like you're incompetent. You don't know how to pack a fucking lunch properly. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Fruit snacks 3 days in a row? Are you joking? Are you kidding me? Like, you know, stuff like that, right? Where it's like, you know, it's not like the stakes aren't very high. Like, you know, they're making fun of you for having too many fruit snacks in your packed lunch for work. But like, you know, it's not as intense as being like you're worthless as a person. So I think that might be maybe a middle ground to potentially play around with, is sort of like, how can somebody who is caretaking you also degrade you? Well, I think that usually, for me at least in my mind, would more commonly take on the form of a parent figure, you know, kind of having to parent because like, oh, you just don't know enough yet. You're incompetent. You can't do this on your own. So I have to do it for you. And then the objectification side, this one's a little bit harder, I think, for a caregiver type. If you mean in sort of like the human furniture getting used like an object sense of being objectified, and like, especially if it's more sexual in nature, where you're basically asking your partner to be like, you know, don't pay attention to me, ignore me. I like it when you ignore me when you do sexy things to my body. You know, that's going to be harder for a caregiver type, because I think I imagine that they're going to be more focused on your pleasure, which is maybe the opposite of what you want in that scenario. But again, I think it goes back to like, how can you make somebody feel like an object while also like helping them or taking care of them? And like, what comes to mind for me is sort of like, they're making you do this because it's teaching you a lesson, like it's a self-growth thing. Like, we're gonna do this because it's gonna teach you humility, and it's gonna help you process this thing. Like, we're objectifying you, but it's not just because you're worthless and stupid. It's because I need to help you be a better person. So the objectification could be something like, okay, you know, well, you need to learn how to be a better host when we have guests over. So instead of interacting with the party we're hosting with our kink friends, you are going to be a coat rack in the corner for the evening. And this is to help you appreciate the valuable time we're spending with our friends, and just learn how to be a good hostess by taking care of the other people around you. Like, it's objectifying you, but they're trying to help you at the same time. So I think really the narrative framework is important for finding that middle ground. And then probably, I think at the end of the day, you and your partner are coming together to spitball ideas around like, for you, what do you feel like receiving in terms of caretaking? What kind of caretaking would you feel comfortable doing? And then for them, what kind of degrading and objectifying would they like to do or would be comfortable providing for you? And kind of like start with each of you, like kind of putting your cards on the table of like, this is what I'm willing to offer for your kink that's not mine, that I know I would enjoy doing or potentially enjoy doing, and then I would build from there. But yeah, many possibilities with degradation and objectification for sure. So great question. That's a good one. I think caregivers can be great, but also like they can be a little bit of a struggle to find intersections with other kinks for some people there if they're strictly just a caregiver. On caregiver objectification, considering framing it as playing pretend. Oh, especially if you mean more of like a little like DDLG, CGL type caregiver, that's a good one for sure. Caregiver plus objectification could be a bit of dollification. Oh, that's a good one too, because you get to be his pretty dolly, and he gets to dress you up so pretty, and well, again, that can kind of loop back around to the praise kink as well. But you know, you're an object, but he's also taking care of you because he has to, because you're a doll. You know, also I think pet play. If you're engaging in pet play, that's more of the traditional like, you know, humiliation, degradation focused version of pet play, as opposed to like, you know, I am dog, like type pet play, which is more me. I'm more of the like, I am dog type pet play. But if you're into the more like, I'm a human that's forced to act like a dog because I'm so worthless, you can certainly frame that in a more like, oh, they're taking care of you because they're, you know, you're their pet, and they have to feed you and give you water and take you on walks because, you know, you're the dog, and that's your lot in life. Dolly stuff is very fun. Yeah. All right. I don't see any more on that, so I'm gonna keep going. I think to myself before I start streaming, how in the world am I gonna talk for 2 hours? And then every day I do it, and I'm like, that went by in like a blink of an eye. I just enter a zone when I stream, and I don't know what it is. I just go whoosh, and it's like blah, blah, blah. It's all over the place today. I'm a masochist, but emotional masochism scares me. I would love to hear from those who do have that kink, what it means to them and what they get from it. I'm asking to try and understand. I think that is wonderful. I love trying to understand other people in the kink scene. I am not a big emotional masochist personally myself. I do. Okay, so there's sort of one flavor of emotional masochism I do engage in. I'm not into personally like fear play, interrogations, surprise stuff. I am a very like my body is anxious all of the time. And so like having a partner like jump out and intentionally try to scare me or play a practical joke on me like that is like a no-go. Absolutely not. I'm very sensitive to like loud noises and things like that. So like that kind of emotional masochism is not for me. But there is a specific flavor of emotional masochism that I do enjoy, which is when I'm doing impact play. I either like sort of like I'm not gonna get it too far into this. I'm gonna generalize this. I was going to give a more specific example, but I'm going to generalize it. I enjoy doing scenes where, for impact play, it's sort of like, we're talking about emotional masochism, forms I don't like, forms I do like, and now I'm talking about impact play, which is one way that I enjoy emotional masochism. There's two different forms of impact play. So we've got like kind of a tree branching here of different interconnected topics. But with impact play, I either like doing scenes that are more light, fun, silly, connective, open, where the point is to have fun with the person that I'm playing with, and like there's music and I'm like swaying to the beat and maybe there's like laughing and giggling or I'm singing along, like stuff is very lighthearted and fun. I like that kind of a scene for impact play. Or separately, I like impact play where it's like suffering, getting through something, going through an ordeal and like triumphing over something. I like the kind of, which it's emotionally masochistic in the moment, but then there's a resolution. So it comes back around. Oh, we have a super chat from Andrew. Awesome. I will get to this one in a moment. It hasn't showed up on screen quite yet, but I will get to that as our next question. And by the way, if you want to make sure I answer your question, a super chat is the way to do that. So, emotional masochism for me, I like suffering and I like being able to get through something. So in the moment while I'm doing the scene, sometimes it sucks, like bad, and I don't like what's happening, and I'm like, this is horrible, but I'm basically trying to dig down deep enough into myself to find like the jewel at the bottom that's like I'm trying to uncover that like deeper part of myself that is resilient and can endure and can get through this. And that kind of scene allows me to get to that point where I'm digging and digging and digging and I'm trying to find that. And then when I find that and I get to that point where I'm like, I can fucking do this. Like, you can keep hitting me as hard as you want. You can use whatever toy you want. You can do whatever you want to me, but I am not going to break. And it's getting to that point emotionally where I go through the crying, the suffering, the I fucking hate this is terrible, and like being lost in that emotion, and then getting out from underneath that and being like, let's fucking go, and just like getting through it and then being able to endure all the way to the end. That is an experience I very much enjoy. But I like being able to suffer for a partner. I like being able to like cry and let go. I would say like the main way I experience emotional masochism is like the crying, suffering aspect. But usually for me, it ends up being resolved with this sort of like inner, like this inner like strength that I find within me, like through doing that. I get through all the terrible emotions. And like I think emotional masochism can be something you use in that way, where it's not just like it sucks really bad the whole time and then you feel better later after aftercare is done. Like I think you can have it be sort of a whole through line of like normal emotional experience, it fucking sucks, and then like it gets better, you know? So yeah, but I think for like I get why emotional masochism would be scary. Like I totally understand that. Like there's certain areas of emotional masochism I don't play with. Like I've done humiliation play before. It's not really my favorite type of scene. I like verbal degradation doesn't really do much for me. Like I'm just like, I make content on the internet all day. Like I've heard and seen every type of insult, and you can't get to me with that. Like if I process any kind of verbal degradation, it's only ever a compliment. Like, oh, I have pale skin and it's fucking March and like it's not Halloween anymore, bitch. Like, okay, that's fine. Whatever, moving on. That's fine. But yeah. Oh, okay. Interesting question. Can you please explain? Sorry for not getting this earlier, Howard. I know it's been a hot minute, but I appreciate your patience. Can you please explain why people are into step/adopted sibling kinks? The taboo. I think really it's a simple answer. I think that mentally, I think it's too close to incest because it is incest to think about actually like having siblings or step or adopted siblings or like uncles or whatever, interact with you. Like, oh, sorry, wait, I messed it up. I meant to say like it's too close to have actual biological siblings, cousins, uncles, whatever, like actually interact with you and have that fantasy because like usually they're real people that you actually know. Whereas in a fantasy, you can insert whoever you want into being a step sibling or an adopted sibling or what have you, and then playing with that feels a little bit safer, but it's also very, very taboo. But also it's not actually like it's kind of bad, but it's not bad for the same reasons that like actual incest is, like blood incest is. Like it's kind of like marital inner like I don't know what to call that when it's like it's your adopted sibling or somebody, so you're not blood related, but you do have a familial connection, or maybe you were raised together. I think really it's just the taboo of it. I think that's what it is. And I think things that are taboo are things people enjoy playing with. So, sort of an easy answer on that one. But if you want to know more about that, I can kind of try to explain why. But I don't I'm not into the like step sibling. That's not my thing. So I don't like. I don't know particularly. I can. I think also it can be about like. Especially if it's like brother sister stuff or like sibling stuff. I think sometimes we maybe wanted when we were growing up to have like a younger sibling to take care of or an older sibling to take care of us, and having a role play in our heads where we're thinking about like, oh, what if I had this older brother and yada yada. Like we might find that more like sort of almost like a perverted like fantasy fulfillment of like I always wish I had like this younger sibling I could dote on, and like I always wanted to be like the brave older brother, or like I always wanted to be taken care of and like have somebody to step in, and like we pervert that as maybe a way of dealing with that like that pain of not getting to have that experience. And this is a book I need to reread it because it's been a while, but it's called The Erotic Mind by Jack Moran, and it's a book I refer to a lot, or at least used to. And one of the kind of core things that comes from that book is one of the reasons why people fetishize things or develop kinks around them is it's a way for our brain to process uncomfortable things. Like it's uncomfortable or taboo to like or things that cause us pain and fear and anxiety also as well, right? Like if we really wish that we would have had something in our life we don't have, right? We can deal with that discomfort by turning it into a kink, right? Like this is sort of a meme I've seen before, but there's people who have breeding kinks that are like it's like the dog with the tennis ball meme where it's like no pregnant, only breed. Like the people that have like a big fear of like having a pregnancy or having a pregnancy scare, like a lot of people develop a breeding kink because it's sort of a way of like coping with like the fear of like dealing with like having an unwanted child. So yeah, like the kinks can develop in very interesting ways, and sometimes it's a way of dealing with fear and anxiety because by eroticizing them, it makes it easier for our brain to process that fear and be able to cope with it essentially in a way. So yeah, good question. Okay, so let's go to the super chat here. Ba-ba-da-ba. Oh no! Oh no, did I lose it? Shoot. I did not realize it was gonna disappear from the stream. Oh, here we go. I'm getting closer to a potential partner. We're taking it slow. That's good. She's vanilla, but seems dominant, and so am I. I'm worried that we may not mesh. Advice. I'm taking a moment to think about this. Ugh. I'm having a Snickers break. I really shouldn't be eating this during the stream because it's very dry and I always end up coughing afterwards. But I'm going to the gym after this, and I wanted to make sure I had time to digest before going to the gym. Okay. So you're talking to a potential partner, taking it slow. She's vanilla, but seems dominant, and so am I. So I guess it depends on like what about her makes her seem dominant. Because I think a lot of times women that are like in control, successful women that are willing to like speak their mind, be blunt, ask for what they deserve, they can come across as being dominant in a kink sense, when really what they are is just like sure of themselves and confident and authoritative. That does not necessarily translate into dominant in the bedroom. And in fact, many of the women I know that are more that like so-called type A personality where they're aggressive, ambitious, they control the boardroom, right? That kind of personality. They're a manager or something, and they're very sure of what they want. A lot of women like that actually end up being submissive. Or at least like getting to play in a submissive role, either because they feel like it helps them maybe be more in line with like gender expectations for how they should behave, or it's it's a release from everyday life stress of like it being really stressful to be that person who's always in charge, always making decisions, always calling the shots and being like, the boss friend or the actual boss in the office. So I wouldn't necessarily say that you would know without having a conversation about it whether or not you would be compatible. I think if you are taking it slow and just now you're in like the romantic dating period, you haven't actually progressed into sex or kink yet, you can keep kind of feeling around the borders of that. But I think if for you, this is like a make or break for a relationship where you want to have a dom sub relationship in the bedroom or something kind of at least vaguely like that sexually, you should probably have that conversation sooner rather than later. Like, you don't necessarily have to come out and be like, I identify as a dominant and I'm part of the BDSM community, but I would maybe open it up to them, to ask them, hey, so I really like getting to spend time with you. I've loved our dates, and I really appreciate we've been able to take things slow because I've really been enjoying getting to know you more. And I know that we're maybe getting closer to a time where we maybe feel comfortable exploring, like, sex together. And I'm curious for you what that looks like. Like, what do you enjoy about sex? Like, what do you like about sex? What don't you like? Like, just open the floor for a conversation about what she enjoys in the bedroom. And then, hopefully if up to this point she's been blunt, honest, to the point, maybe more of those characteristics of being dominant, she will be forthright with you in terms of like what she does and doesn't enjoy. And maybe she's experimented before. Maybe she'll say like, oh, well, when I was in college, I did this and that, but really I'm more into this and whatever. So you can never really take it for granted that you think you're gonna get one thing and then you end up getting something else. You just don't know for sure. So until you have that conversation, you can't really know. And it could turn out that she says, well, actually, I like being on top. I like, being in control. I have a really high sex drive. I like being the one who's in charge of this is what I mean. Every time I take a bite of this, inevitably, a couple minutes later, well, it's helping me drink more of my water. So I'm not gonna besmirch it for that reason. But yeah, but you could also end up saying like, really, I'm used to being the one who's in control all the time, and people kind of expect that from me. But I actually really like it when my partner is the one who calls the shots and tells me what to do. Like, you don't know. It could be a bunch of different stuff. But yeah, hopefully that helps. And good luck exploring this new relationship. Yeah. But also, if you don't end up meshing, like, it's fine. Like, not the end of the world. And it was really hard to meet partners these days, especially depending on where you live and your age. Like, it can get harder to meet people. And I'm not going to say that you should just like give up, but also like there's room for compromise, right? Like, especially if she's not like, committed to being a dominant. Can I ask something? Sure. You can either use a super chat or you can do it in the actual live stream text itself, but can't promise at this late hour that we are going to get to your question if you don't use a super chat. So just keep that in mind. But thank you, Andrew. Great question there. Alrighty. Oh, about my nails? Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming people are talking about my nails. Yeah. They're very sparkly. If I can get them closer. Oh, you guys can definitely see that. I didn't really want to focus on all my nails at once, but they are very sparkly. All right. Yes, the perversion of innocent desire makes sense. Yeah, exactly. Well, and to be clear, when I'm saying that people, when I was saying that like people wish they had an older brother, I don't mean that literally when they were a younger age they desired an older brother sexually for real, but like a way of coping with that as an adult as you are developing your sexual orientation and your like who you are sexually, your sexual personality, so to speak. That may be something that ends up kind of in the mix, you know. Like in the same way that people develop like an interest in like nylon stockings after watching their mom wear nylon stockings and like getting changed in the morning as a child. Like our brains attached to like the weirdest things. Like it's not like in different fetishes and like it's individual too, right? Like there's many reasons why a fetish could develop, but certainly exposure and then habituating a response to that exposure can be one factor to it. Also, like a brain processing thing can be part of it too. And like a lot of people get exposed to stuff at a young age that lead them to develop certain kinks and fetishes as a result of that particular exposure. Okay. Oh no. I have missed a good portion of the chat. I am sorry. If you asked a question earlier in the stream, please re-ask it. I haven't gotten to it yet because YouTube has booted me to the top of the live chat at this point, and I am just to where Andrew asked their question, and I know that I missed other questions in there somewhere. I wonder if he's terminally online enough to know the human pet guy. Is that the guy that has the border collie suit? Or whatever. I don't know if it's a border collie, but kind of like the collie looking suit where like he transforms himself into an actual dog and like walks around like that. I have heard of that and seen that, and I remember he was on Dr. Phil, right? He was on Dr. Phil or something. I think maybe he has a little documentary. I haven't actually watched the documentary, but from what I can tell, his perspective is basically just like, I don't know. I'm not hurting anybody. Why can't I be a dog? It's just fun. It's just fun to be a dog. That's it. It's just fun to be like it's almost like blase, like sort of just like I'm just trying to live my life, man. Like sort of attitude towards the whole thing, which I sort of appreciate. But unless there's some other human pet guy that I don't know about, it's not that guy. In which case, why are there so many on the internet? Why is that like a popular thing? Ba-da-bum. Clarifying question on not giving advice on mental illness in BDSM. Are you including having depression and wanting to engage in BDSM? This is originally what I came here to ask. I would say, like, I can't give advice on, like, if I have this mental illness, can I do BDSM? Because the answer to that is always maybe. A lot of it depends on like the severity of the illness, how well managed it is. Do you have a mental health team? Are you medicated? Is that medication helping you? Like, you don't always have to have medication. Like, certain disorders are not necessarily helping medication over much, but like in general, what is your support system like? How well managed is it? I can answer questions maybe about certain symptoms and like, hey, let's say that you are somebody that has an anxiety disorder. And part of that is that you experience panic attacks. Can I do, like, if I experience panic attacks, what should I do to communicate to my partner about bondage? Like, if we're getting very specific about particular symptoms and particular scenarios within that, I can give you a broad overview, which is probably always going to boil down to you need to communicate about it. You need to make sure you have a robust support system in place and play well within your risk budget. Because I don't know you, I don't know your particular circumstances, and that's going to be very individual. So it depends on how narrow we make it, but if it's a more general question of like, if I have this thing, how can I do BDSM? It's like, well, I don't know, like maybe, but it's hard to, it's hard to give anything like that's that general because I don't know. There's a Dalmatian guy too. Oh yeah, that's like, isn't he actually a puppy player though? I thought he was actually a puppy player, the Dalmatian guy, or maybe not. Oh, not terminally online enough. Oh no, I passed didn't pass the test. I mean, I'm not gonna take that as an insult. Not terminally online enough. It's a weird British monarchist debate lord who wants a society with mandatory human pets. Can you tell me where to find this? Because I almost am like, do I want to make a reaction video to this? Because I have some. I mean, it's a natural extension of the whole, like, the solution to incels is to have state-appointed wives that you get when you turn 18, and like the fucking incel fan fiction about like, if we had a society where all women were branded like cattle and then like they were assigned to a man based on the man's social value, you know, and their comparative beauty or whatever, like there's some like Jordan Peterson type shit that I read about that before. Jordan Peterson, by the way, is off the fucking rails. If you've not seen him in the last couple of years, he retweeted milking porn one time. And I don't know, I think he was serious about it. I think he legitimately thought it was like some kind of Chinese torture thing. But actually it was just femdom milking porn. Just fully on the timeline. Just fully out there on twitter.com. What a day to be on the internet. What a day to have eyeballs, truly. I do not know what that is. I'm sure I could just Google auto-tune. I don't know what that is. Let me look that up real quick. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like that's APTL. That is like the more clinical term for you know, what it basically amounts to ABDL, which is adult baby diaper lover. Which it's more the adult baby side, I think, versus I think a diaper fetish has a different like Latin term for it. But what is it? It's when somebody enjoys acting like a baby. There you go. What all that involves and what it can mean to an individual person is multitudinous. Malt, like a malt vinegar. Jordan Peterson is truly off the rails. Yep. I dated a girl once who legit thinks she's a dog. Oh no. Yeah, she was abusive, but I loved the dog thing. She wasn't hurting anyone, and I just think it's an ND thing. Yeah. Cluster B. Well, okay. I don't know if ND stands for narcissistic. I don't know if you meant narcissistic disorder or if you meant neurodivergent. But in any case, either one of those things can cause problems in relationships if they're, well, okay. Neurodivergent people are great and amazing, can be wonderful partners, but also if you're to the point of it resulting in abusing people, that's no good. So it can cause complications, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you're with somebody who is also not neurodivergent, and then that's, you know, gets complicated. All right, well, I'm going to have to look up the human pet guy because what the fuck? Like, that is off the rails. I'm currently bouncing around between therapists, so it's hard to find an answer. I mean, honestly, I know this is kind of counterintuitive, but if what you're looking for is help with like the kink and sex part, you might want to look for a sex therapist first. Most people, I don't know how severe your depression is, and definitely if it's, you know, if there's a certain level of ideation happening, if it's like if it's a major thing where also if you need assistance with like medication, you have medication management also is like a factor here, you know, choose your own path that you know works best for what you're looking for. But if you are hoping to have like short form therapy specifically for the intersection of like kink and your mental health, what I might recommend trying to find is a therapist for the depression portion of things, and then maybe having some brief short-term therapy that's concentrated with a sex therapist who is Kink Aware, which at least when I have looked and gone to like the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom has a great website and a great way to look up various professionals that are kink aware and kink friendly, and certainly sex therapy would be the practice that I would imagine you'd have the most success with, and a lot of people find success through that, just not as it would be like a full term like long-term therapist, but as sort of like a, hey, I have this specific thing, this is how it interacts with my like sex and physical intimacy and my desire, and I like, because of how often depression or medication for depression can lead to sexual discomfort or other issues in a relationship, I imagine that this would not be an uncommon problem for a sex therapist to deal with, but I am not one of them. I can only tell you this is like what I would say if you wanted to find somebody like this is what I'd be looking for that I think might be able to help steer you in the correct direction. I wasn't clear. She's very sexually dominant when flirting, but I'm not sure if this is a game for her. She just knows I'm a dom. I mean, honestly, like, if she's kind of being dominant while flirting, she might be a brat. Like, hear me out. Sometimes people that are, like, the biggest brats and, like, smart-ass masochists, they are that way because they're like, ooh, can I be in control? Like, are they going to let me be in control? Are they going to put me down? Are they going to correct me? And they act to a certain level of dominant because really they want you to come down and do this. But obviously, if you're not comfortable with that at that point in your relationship, it's not your job to bring them down from here to there, right? That's something that has to be negotiated for. Like, you wouldn't want to like insult a potential partner because you think they're trying to play around, but they're not really. So it could just be that they like kind of the teasing of acting dominant, but they're not really like, their money isn't where their mouth is. They're not really going to actually be dominant in the bedroom. It is kind of like, teasing and play acting, but I mean, it could be a hint. It's not a hint, I will say. It could be, but also it could definitely also be just that she's like teasing and bratting. So, your mileage will vary. I'm so articulate, it's incredible. Thank you. It takes me like 3 hours to record videos, so I'm glad that it comes across well in here. And I try not to use ums and things like that too much. Like, I'm trying to train myself out of it, but thankfully I've had a lot of practice of doing this as a format, which helps. So thank you. As a brat, I can confirm I'm always so cheeky on text. I often ask my dom to admit I'm the boss. Ooh, that is certainly taking it to a level. It did not end well. Well, I mean, but it also kind of ended the way you wanted, didn't it? Delightful. That is delightful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, I'm not going to eat more of this because I know what happens. If I eat this, I start coughing. As an emotional sadist, though a pain-centric sadist at heart, I love when people trust me enough to poke at the sore spots they have and having that level of control over somebody's psyche. Yes, definitely for the dominant partner when it comes to emotional masochism and sadism, one of the big things is like the vulnerability of all of it, right? The like, all right, I'm not just poking at your body, which we both can agree is fun. I'm poking at sore stuff in your mind. Like that bruise that hasn't really healed in your brain over that thing that embarrassed you in 5th grade. Guess where we're going? Like, boop, 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 boop. Or like insecurity about aspects of your personality. Like maybe you're disorganized or inattentive, or you forget things easily, or you're too controlling and you're overly like concerned with like cleaning everything all the time, or overly concerned what other people think about you. You can also poke at those sore spots, and that is such a high level of vulnerability. I absolutely get why for people that would be fun to play with, but also very scary because you are letting people into a very real level of like who you are by its very nature. You can't have this, well, I mean, you can kind of, but for most forms of emotional sadomasochism, you can't have it be where you're just a persona and a role play and a costume and putting on an act. Like the way that it works is by being your real true self. Whereas if you're doing a regular impact play scene in more standard masochism, you can dress it up to the nines and have like 10 degrees of mental separation between the real you and what you're actually doing. That does not exist for emotional masochism for a lot of people. Let me get to, okay, whew, we have like 10 minutes left, so we're gonna speed round it, people. We are speed rounding it. Content creation as an antidote to humiliation kink? Yes, definitely. Definitely that for sure. Okay. I feel like stuck content is trying to hit a similar spot to that. No pun intended. Oh, yeah. You mean when, like, the stuff where it's, like, people, like, halfway stuck in a wall? Yeah, I've seen that before. I don't really, like, I'm like, where did this come from? But I have seen that referenced before. I don't know what I was looking up. I was looking up, like, something about, I think I was looking up when I was looking at Omoroshi. I was looking up, like, I think it's very popular as, like, a Japanese, like, specific kink. And that's, like, it was, like, on the list of, like, unique, like, how kink in Japan is, like, different than in America and, like, what fetishes are there. And, like, also stuck, I think, is very more common in, like, hentai versus, obviously, like, you know, can't really, unless you're doing some very advanced CGI work, you're not really doing that in, like, you know, standard American live-action pornography. Pornography, as we say. Well, I'm people. Oh, sorry for calling anybody out with that. My bad. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about situations where like there isn't a power dynamic to like the step sibling like adopted incest like role play stuff. Like, yes, obviously we're talking about like an uncle and like a child, like that's gonna be one thing, but I guess in my head I was more thinking of like cousins, like okay, you're like kind of the same age, you're like related but also like you're not related because they're like your step cousin, like it's stuff like that, right, where it's sort of like it's not just like an age gap thing or like a power differential where like they're a direct caregiver to you, like when you're close in age, close in like, you know, relative authority in the family structure. Like that's where I was thinking of. But yeah, if it's like if it's something with a power dynamic, that's going to be more taboo, obviously. Even if it is a step relationship. But it's complicated. I don't know. Like that's not my thing. Like I try to understand why people are into certain things, and I don't always get it, but I can kind of try to guess at why. Two dominant people, maybe switch for scenes. How open are you both? Okay, the person that had the other person who maybe is dominant. I mean, yeah, if you are just a dom and you never ever want to switch, or you don't even want to have a vanilla interaction, then like, you know, it's going to be hard to compromise on. But if you're willing to switch or like are curious about exploring that, that might also be a possibility too. But I feel like two dom relationships or two sub relationships harder? I feel like I know more people that are in two sub relationships and they both tend to feel pretty unfulfilled, but the people I know that are in two dom relationships, I feel like they're able to make it work more often. But I have such like a small sample size for that. I don't even know how to like analyze that, like how accurate that is. I don't think it is. It was a pretty big bag on Tumblr. Interesting. I never saw that on Tumblr, but also I like wasn't looking for water sports kink on Tumblr, so maybe I missed it. But interesting. It's very interesting, like kind of what sort of niche kinks find home different places. And good to know. Thank you for the information. Because I am planning to make a standalone video about Omo, so I will have to include that. Maybe do some research about. Oh, I don't even know how I'd find that. Like, I guess I'd have to find archived Tumblr blogs or maybe people writing about it being on Tumblr. I don't even know if that would be a thing that people would think to record. Probably not, honestly. But honestly, I have found the most unexpected archived stuff. I like things from like the mid 90s that I absolutely would never assume would have had an internet footprint to this day are like preserved in amber, freely, easily able to be searched for on google.com. And I love that. You have a small sample size for dom-dom relationships because they don't usually work. I would argue the reason why I don't have a big sample size for dom-dom relationships is because dominants are comparatively rare to submissives, and it's much more likely that a dominant will find submissive partners that they're compatible with versus submissives trying to find dominant partners they're compatible with, because the dominant partner is at less risk of like safety violations by being in a power change relationship. So their standards sort of naturally are maybe a bit broader than for a potential S type. But yeah, I was sort of like, I think, I think certainly part of it is a lack of compatibility. Like, I think if people both know they're dominant, they're probably not going to get together, whereas submissives are kind of more likely to compromise because they're people pleasers. Whereas I think two dominants are more likely to walk away before the relationship even starts because they know it won't work. But I think also it's a numbers game. Like, they're sort of at the floor level of the community. You have, I think you have a higher number of like beginner doms and beginner tops and then beginner submissives, but by the time you get to the experience level of like actually being able to have a relationship, you suddenly have the inverse of, now it went from being like, not a huge gap, but maybe let's say for every submissive there's like two doms maybe, or two tops. Also, a lot of people discover their switches, and so that also kind of like weeds a lot of things out as well. And then by the time you get to the top of like having a moderate to high level of experience and competence, then it ends up being like one dom for every 5 submissives. I feel like this is my experience of it. I don't know if it's actually true or not. Don't have the data on that. Well, actually, I correct myself. I do have some data about this. They're generally speaking across across gender, across other things, like submissive versus dominant, submissives always are more common than being dominant, regardless of gender. Well, actually, no. That may actually not be what that study showed. I'm trying to think. I think there may be more men that want to be dominant than male submissives, but there are a lot of male submissives overall and very, very, very few female dominants. And so you end up with this very skewed thing where it's like 75% of people are submissive and like 25% are strictly dominant. And then you obviously have like some float where like, there's 5 to 10% in there that like fully switch. Like not just like, oh, I'm submissive, but I top for some stuff. I mean, like fully dom sub switch, which is far less common than like top bottom switching. So yeah, it's. I think it's a numbers game. Anyways, I don't know why I talk so long about that answer. Do I even want to know what lotion gauze play is? I'm like morbidly curious about that as a concept. Like, do you rug burn somebody's dick with gauze and lotion? Like, what could that mean? What does that mean? I do every day. Well, not every day, but I still to this day, I learn new things about kink that I did not heretofore understand or contemplate. And I love it. So thank you for that. I think the Wayback Machine is still around. I use it all the time. I haven't like checked it in the last week, but I'm pretty sure it's still there. Yep, you don't know if you don't ask. Exactly. I guess I missed it, but I guess we were having a depression debate, and I understand this is a very important hot topic for a lot of people, but I get that it's hard to hold your comments when like you feel very passionately about something or something you have personal experience with. I would like to gently suggest not derailing the conversation to have arguments about if the biological or the chemical model or whatever model of the environmental model of depression is the most accurate. Like, you know, it's very personal, and I think it's, we got to remember, people get very attached to answers about that question. Yeah, I don't know either. It's somebody said lotion gauze. I don't know. Somebody said lotion gauze porn. I'm not Googling that shit. I don't know. If you guys don't explain to me, I'm not Googling it. So tell me what it is or else. Which I guess by saying that, you could just tell me it's literally anything and I'd probably just believe you within reason. You know, if it sounds plausible, I'll probably believe it. I'm trying to get to like 1 or 2 more questions here. Wow, it really is already 8 o'clock. How did that freaking happen? How did that happen? Were they talking about lycanthropy? Like, as in the mental disorder of lycanthropy with that person? I mean, yeah, if we're talking about like the disorder lycanthropy in like not just like, yeah, if we're talking about that, yes, certainly it can be a symptom of like severe long-term problems. So that is very sad. That is what was happening to the individual person. I hadn't made that connection in my head. So thank you for pointing out that possibility. I actually think the video on the human pet guy is a great idea. So many conversations about the situation are tainted by the creator's kink negative beliefs. Like, come on. This is like, there's like, was it like Caleb Mopin? Like Mopin? What the fuck is that guy's name? Caleb Mopin? There was some guy that got like outed as like having some fetishes that he behaved inappropriately with. And then like there was a bunch of kink shaming around. It's like, come on. He's already a little turd. We don't really have to be like, you know, oh, fuck, what was it? It was some fetish thing, but what the fuck was it? I don't remember what it was.
Mr. Beansman donated $5. Hi, Evie.
Oh, okay.
I want to ask one of my play partners about what her feelings for me are, but I'm scared of how it can affect the relationship. Any advice?
I want to ask one of my play partners about what her feelings are for me, but I'm scared of how it can affect the relationship. Any advice? I mean, I think you need to have an answer. And I think if you don't have an answer, it will come out sooner or later. I would probably want to have that conversation sooner versus wondering and like maybe putting more effort into something than I should be, or what is commiserate with the other person is putting into the relationship. So I would probably, and I appreciate this with people when I have conversations with them, is, you know, essentially like, hey, where is this relationship going? And I've done this checking with people too, where it's like, hey, like, you know, this is what I'm looking for. I feel like we're only heading in this direction. Like, how do you feel about it? And I would probably say, and I'm going to assume, just as an example here, you know, what you're looking for is ideally like a romantic relationship, like a dating relationship. So I might say something like, hey, I really love getting to know you. I love spending time together. I feel like I want this relationship to maybe go a bit deeper. How are you feeling about it? What are you hoping to get out of this relationship, basically? You know, don't make it a super duper serious thing like it's the end of the world, but leave them room to talk about how they actually feel. And I imagine the spectrum of answer is going to be something from the range of like, oh my gosh, thank goodness you asked, because I would like to start dating and like I was nervous to bring it up. Or it could be like, you know, I'm not really sure what I want right now. I'm open to this possibility, but I'm also comfortable staying where we are right now. That's what I imagine is going to be the most likely window of response. But like, if you've been together, like around each other for a while, I don't imagine it's going to be something terrible. Like, I don't like you at all, fuck off. But I don't know, weirder things have happened, I guess. I don't think it's at this point, if you've been getting along together, that it's going to be like, I don't like you at all, lose my number. Like, you know, you'll probably at least be able to have a friendship or a play partnership, which is maybe not your ideal, but also it's not nothing either. So anyways, I don't remember what there was a couple of kink shaming things. Also the Sneeko thing. Like, Sneeko did something where like, he was exploring having an open relationship or something for a while. He's this content creator, but you don't know who Sneeko is. Sneeko's a content creator who has kind of gone off the deep end, a la Jordan Peterson, and like he basically just repeats nonsense for views, and like is kind of a hateful person. I don't really like. He doesn't seem to have a moral compass, or he's very fine compromising it for the sake of views and engagement and attention, and I find that to be very sad. Like, damn, what's wrong, bro? Which the answer to damn, what's wrong, bro, for the most part tends to be, from what I can tell of most people's analysis, is at one point in time, he tried to explore having an open relationship, and he got kind of mentally broken watching his girlfriend get fucked by somebody else, and he just never recovered from that. And a lot of people were like, oh my god, he's literally a cuck. Bro, he's literally a cuck. And it's like, okay. Let's not kink shame people that are actual cucks, please, by comparing them to fucking Sneeko. But also, like, that's very explicitly not what he wanted. Like, it's not his kink. He was open to exploring it, and why are we putting people down for wanting to explore things? Like, he was brave. Like, even if he's a piece of shit, he was still getting out there and trying stuff, you know? Like, y'all people are just doing nothing but missionary with the lights on all the goddamn time. Like, I think that it should be fine to explore, and somebody can be a bad person and have no morals, and also we shouldn't put them down for, experimenting with a different approach to their sexuality. Okay? I don't really even like framing it as he was cuckolded. I don't know if he said that he was being cuckolded. My memory of it is they tried to do a full partner swap, and he saw her have sex in front of him with another man, and he didn't like that, which is... partner swapping and cuckolding are not the same thing. Like, the way, like, you can watch your partner have sex with somebody else, and that cannot be cuckolding. I think this is something that people that are vanilla or don't really know a lot about this don't understand. You can process it in a way where it's like you're being humiliated and degraded, and you purposely want that level of interaction, and you are encouraging your partner to have sex outside the relationship to achieve that feeling. Or you can have an open relationship that goes sideways because you don't actually like that. Or you can do full partner swapping where, yes, your partner is being fucked by somebody else, but also you like that and it's fine and you don't feel competitive and bad about it. Also, the people that find value in that kind of thing or find it important have small and silly views of life. Your value as a person doesn't end at the tip of your dick. I mean, definitely more people need to hear that message. That's for sure. Jeez. Yeah. Those type of milking machine videos are really popular in Japan for some reason. I don't get it. Like, I try to understand kinks, and okay, so when I say I don't get it, I should be clear. I do understand. I can come up with reasons for why it would be popular, but the train of things that has to happen in one's life and the types of desires you have to get to that place where that's the porn you're jerking off to, I do not relate to. I'm like, that's your kink and that's fine, but also, what the heck? Like, I'm not getting it. So, I get it, but I don't get it, you know? Oh, Justin Roiland, him too. No, different person. I'm talking about like sort of a small internet content creator. Justin Roiland liked to message young people that were his fans and exploit them sexually, which is a different thing. I don't even know if what he did necessarily was kinky, other than just he was more a pervert than he was kinky. You know, there's a difference there. We have some bandit viewing at the end. Ask and ye shall receive. Missionary with the lights on can mean you have to go to the gym 48 times a week, and that's not for everyone. I mean, I guess, yeah. I guess I meant without the lights on. I guess people probably have sex more without the lights on. I haven't understood that. I feel like with the lights on, it's easier to see what you're doing, but then I guess maybe people do it without the lights on because it's the middle of the night. I don't know. I don't get it. Sneeko got his nickname from sneaking into the closet with a 1990s vintage camcorder. True fact. I mean, I'll take that and run with it. Sure, why not? It could have been clinical lycanthropy, but I've noticed that myself and some of my ND friends have gone through something like that when we were younger. Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like a lot of us have had the, I'm going to pretend to be a wolf or a dog or a werewolf or something phase. Like, that's sort of, it's common make-believe play for kids, and then a lot of people, like, they don't grow out of it, like, as they get older. It takes them longer to do so. Oh, I'm glad you guys like the weekly stream. It's fun. Even as we talk about serious topics here at the end. But I think it's time for me to go. I'm going to wrap up and get ready to go to the gym. As promised, we will get some ending bandita time because I did not set up the dog camera. Hi, girly. Hi, we're so sleepy. You want to come here? Hi, sweet girl. Come here. No, you don't want to. You want to get pets. You want to lay there and get pets, but I cannot do that presently, so I have to come get you, my fuzzy baby. This is the fuzzy baby. Hello, fuzzy baby. Hello, fuzzy baby. How are we doing, fuzzy baby? Oh, how are you, honey? How are you? I know you're so sleepy. We had a long day out in the yard today, huh? We were in the yard for a long time playing around. So sleepy. My banditas. Literally, it's so relaxing to me when I hear her breathing or I hear her snoring or whatever. It literally puts me to sleep when I hear her little, like, her little snoots and her little whole noises that she makes when she's relaxing. It's like, there she is. She is the precious micro wolf. That is exactly what she is. I had her outside the other day. We were going on a walk in public, and I heard that she looked like a miniature wolf, a miniature husky, a baked potato, a raccoon, a fox, and I had people call her cute in at least 3 different languages. So you're just the talk of the town, my big baked potato. You just are. You just are the talk of the town. Will she get a costume? I keep forgetting to get one. I keep forgetting to get her a costume. I go by a PetSmart almost every single day, and I need to like just stop and be like, do they have any costumes? So I may actually do that probably tomorrow when I'm at the gym. I will look for a costume. Yes. Bandita, look at her. This is what we do. This is how we hang out. Isn't this just the best? Isn't it just the best thing in life is having like a little snuggly dog? So snuggly. She is just a little cutie patootie, that's true. She has such tiny little ears. Look at this. Look how tiny her ears are. Like, what's up with that? How did God manage to do that, you know? You are a little socialite, huh? You're the talk of the town. So sweet. So good. Okay. All right, we're going to go. I love her little paws. When she rests her little paws on me like this, I literally die. I literally die. And then I'm fine. She is a little pumpkin. That is true. She's my little pumpkin. I really want to get her either a pumpkin costume or a werewolf costume or a tutu or a ballerina thing or like a princess thing. I'm open to possibilities. I have multiple things I would accept for a costume. But it's hard to find a costume for her because she's kind of a weird size because she's small, but she's not like Chihuahua small. I have to find stuff that fits like a French bulldog, essentially. Anyways, that's going to be it for tonight's stream, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Friday night. Have a great night, you all. Stay safe out there.